Let's get more now. Their economics and business editor, Liam Halligan, who can join us there from Downing Street. And clearly, Liam, it's the big companies that were there this morning. I think EDF, Scottish and Southern, Shell, BP, the top players.
Yeah, of course. I mean, since the Uxbridge and South Ruislip by-election, which the Tories held, of course, amid a lot of opposition to Sadiq Khan's ULEZ rollouts, the ultra-low emission zone rollout, the Tories have been sort of tacking back in terms of reining in some of their net zero pledges and showing a bit more love to the oil and gas industry, if you like. Grant Shapps, he is the Energy Security and Net Zero Secretary, and he stressed to me on a couple of occasions his job title is in that order, with energy security to the fore. As you say, this summit at Downing Street, it does contain the big players, BP, Shell, Scottish and Southern, based in Perth, of course, and other oil and gas companies too. We've just seen the government announce 100 new drilling licences in the North Sea, which of course caused a lot of consternation, including among some Tory backbenchers as well as among environmentalists as well. But what they're stressing today is renewables. As you heard there from Grant Shapps, the UK is using more renewable energy, up to 40% on some days, wind, solar and biomass and so on. But it doesn't mean that energy prices that people actually pay, whether households or businesses, are coming down very much. That is the problem. And we're approaching, obviously this is midsummer now, you wouldn't know it from the weather, but the reality is, Mark and Pip, that last winter was actually quite mild. So while oil and gas prices spiked in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, they could have gone a lot higher, and there's concerns that if this winter is more harsh, then those prices for households and businesses that they pay for their electricity and gas could go up even more.
I want to ask you too, Liam, about this 2030 deadline for petrol and diesel cars. I think you've already said that you reckon it's going to be pushed back to 2035 at least. Grant Shapps now says there appears to be a misunderstanding about the path towards petrol and diesel-free cars. Now, that's after the Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, she'd voiced concerns that electrical vehicle targets could stall investment.
You're completely right, Pip. There is now an active discussion going on within government, within the cabinet, about whether or not the UK should shift its ban on new petrol and diesel cars from 2030 to 2035, the way it has been shifted in Germany and across the rest of the EU. When I asked the Prime Minister about it yesterday, he said, that's our policy, 2030, and that's going to stay our policy. But of course, we're getting experts say the national grid itself isn't ready for this new ban on petrol and diesel cars and a huge wave of EVs, electric vehicles, let alone the actual charging points being built as well. And I just wanted to mention one other thing while I'm here, and that is electricity prices themselves, which is, of course, is what GB News viewers and listeners will be most concerned about. Just have a look at this little graphic that I've put together for you. It's really quite hard to get hold of these numbers, but I managed to find them on various databases. We can see from this graphic, as of June, end-user electricity prices for residential, this is what households pay, were 45.2 euros per what's called a cent-euro kilowatt-hour. That's a complicated unit, but these units are the same across the countries I've shown you. 45.2 euros in the UK, just 27.1 euros in France, where they've got lots and lots of nuclear power. Just 21 euros in Spain. The EU average is around 25 euros compared to 45 in the UK. Germany is the highest in the EU pretty much. And look at that in America, where they're doing lots of fracking. Under 20 euros per cent kilowatt hour. That's what GB News viewers and listeners really care about. Why is it, when we've got so many renewables, that electricity prices are still so high?
Yeah, and don't try solar power today, by the looks of it, in Downing Street at least. Liam, thanks very much indeed for updating us there.